Do the color guard, followed by a pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Now please join the Girl Scouts in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Nice job. Now, we're going to have the Star Spangled Banner played. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence for all the town officials, town employees, and town honorees that we have lost since the last time we met. Ryan J. Burns, Conservation Commission. D. Christopher Cross, Planning Board. John DeCosta Jr., Zoning Board of Appeals. Donald J. McDonald, Herring Warden. Thank you. I would now like to invite Police Chief Flaherty to the stage to present the Victor R. Flaherty Senior Civic Award.
Thank you. This award was created to honor and remember Victor R. Flaherty Sr. Throughout my father's 50 years of community service, he always thought we all should be what we can do to make the community better and stronger. He thought you should assist your community in any way that you can. My father loved serving and volunteering his time. And this year's recipient also truly loves this community while volunteering so much of his time. Tonight, Tonight, the committee is honoring and recognizing Pastor Bill Smith. When I first called Pastor Smith to tell him that he would be receiving this award, he was truly humble, unable to say enough about the honor of receiving the Victor R. Flaherty Senior Civic Award. I thought it was so ironic when I asked the pastor if he'd be able to be here tonight for the presentation He then told me he was already planned to attend, and he had previously been asked to open the meeting with invocation. Pastor Bill Smith is the pastor of Temple Baptist Church in West Bridgewater, now being the pastor of the church for over 33 years. But this was just the start of his service to West Bridgewater. Unfortunately, in 1989, the Temple Baptist Church was set on fire, the arsonists destroying almost half the building. My belief is due to this devastation and event, and seeing our first responders work tirelessly to save the building and the church, is maybe why Pastor Smith first got involved with our public safety departments. Pastor Smith, shortly after this arson, became the first chaplain of the West Bridgewater Fire Department, now being part of our fire department for over 30 years. After I became chief of police and knowing Pastor Smith, I asked him if he would be interested in becoming the department's first chaplain. He graciously said he would. This now became a real awkward moment for me. I now had to explain to the pastor that before I could officially have the honor of appointing him the first ever police chaplain of the West Bridgewater Police Department, that we must now complete and pass an extensive background investigation. I quickly explained to the Pastor Smith that we conduct these investigations and backgrounds on all new police department employees. But think of it, I don't know if I was ready for his answer. Like Pastor Smith saying, really? You want to do a background on me? But thankfully not him. Pastor Smith understood and believed and honored to know we take the filling of that position not lightly. We weren't going to change our process for that position. And as you can see, above photo, he passed the background. Since then, Pastor Smith has become a crucial member of our police department family, assisting us when called upon to be that calming voice, the good listener, while having the ability to lower an officer's stress level after a major disturbing incident. Pastor Smith doesn't assist and volunteer his time to just our police and fire departments. He has been part of the Plymouth County Critical Stress Management Team for over 10 years, assisting all fire departments in Plymouth County. Pastor Smith, for the past 25 years, has volunteered to service to the Life Care Center of West Bridgewater, working closely with patients, staff, working tirelessly and assisting all, not just the residents, but their families, their friends, and going through, all these families and friends going through a tough time and a point of their life. Pastor Smith has volunteered his time and participated in many missionaries, going to Haiti on 5 occasions and going to Brazil on another. I know I'm missing other causes, and I apologize. Pastor Smith has spearheaded and volunteered in his lifetime, but I won't miss the fact that Pastor Smith loves this community and is tirelessly committed to helping and assisting all of us. In closing, I'd be remiss not to mention his family, who's up on the right side, quite a few there. Pastor Smith has been married for 43 years to his wife, Terry. Also present here tonight, they have 4 children, soon to be 5 grandchildren. I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank his family for sharing Pastor Smith with us. All of you had made sacrifices so that your husband, father, and grandfather can assist our community. I do this speech every year for the last 11 years, and I still get choked up about it. It's a strange feeling. This is what the award is all about. Individuals who just want to serve. Again, I'm honored and privileged to present the 2022 Victor R. Flaherty Senior Civic Award to Pastor Bill Smith.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief. Knowing his dad and what an honor this is. Many of you did not know Vic Flaherty Sr., but if you did, he was a great man. So I feel extremely, extremely honored and privileged to be a part of the town of West Bridgewater. When we came here 33 years ago, my wife and I had no children. Now we have 4 children, 2 son-in-laws, soon to be a 3rd son-in-law in a few weeks, almost 5 grandchildren. We're multiplying in a good way. But we thank the town of West Bridgewater so much. We love this town. It's our home. It's where our children were born, and they call home. And so thank you, Chief Flaherty. Thank you, town of West Bridgewater. Our prayers are with you all and your families. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again. In the audience, we have Congressman Stephen Lynch, who would like to provide an update of what he's doing for us at the Capitol.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and congratulations to our good pastor. Congratulations on the receipt of your award. I know there are several items on the warrant tonight, so I'll be particularly brief tonight. I do want to recognize my colleague, State Senator Walter Timilty, my colleagues in government as well, and members of town meeting. I really wanted just to address 2 points. One, I'd like to address the issue of federal funding for West Bridgewater, and then the second is U.S. military and financial support for Ukraine. On the first point, I'm pleased to report that West Bridgewater received more than $935,000 from the first COVID relief package, the so-called CARES Act, and that disbursement was meant to try to defray the costs that West Bridgewater incurred because of the pandemic. So that in every town was different in terms of what they saw as primary goal in spending that money, but many towns, such as West Bridgewater, chose to support their first responders, their police and their fire, making sure that they had the personal protective equipment so that they could serve on the front lines during the pandemic. I know that other towns either refurbished the ventilation systems in some of their older schools. Some towns actually purchased laptop computers so their kids could learn remotely, but that was entirely left up to the local community. Secondly, the Congress also passed another bill called the American Rescue Plan, and that provided $720,000 for the town of West Bridgewater. And again, that was left up to the individual towns on how to spend that. I'm not sure if the entire disbursement has been received yet, but it will be up to local government as to how that money will be spent. Additionally, in the previous session, Congress passed $1.2 trillion for the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, which was signed into law by President Biden. And under that act, over the next 5 years, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will receive $9.5 billion over the next 5 years. This funding will include $5.4 billion for roads, $2.3 billion to modernize our public transportation, including ferries, and $1.4 billion to improve our drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. Massachusetts will also receive a record $1.1 billion for critical bridge replacement and repairs. We've got some of the oldest infrastructure in the country in Massachusetts. And I think at this point, I'm a former iron worker, and I think right now there's 472 bridges in Massachusetts that are structurally deficient, so they can't carry the loads that they were designed to carry. And so we'll be able to put a lot of work into the expedited bridge repair program. In March, the House also passed a $1.5 trillion government funding package that focused on benefits for veterans and expanding affordable housing for our seniors and people with disabilities, And it will provide, and this goes to my second point, it will provide $13.6 billion in emergency funding, military and humanitarian funding, to support the Ukrainian people and defend democracy in the wake of Russia's unprovoked attack on that sovereign nation. I actually serve as the chairman of the National Security Subcommittee in Congress, in the House. And a few weeks ago, I was able to bring a U.S. delegation, 3 Republican colleagues and 3 Democratic colleagues over to Ukraine, to the border with Poland, Romania, and Moldova. And it was tough to, it was a tough thing to witness. Our congressional delegation, was asked to achieve 3 objectives. One was to work with the 82nd Airborne to review the shipment and delivery of weapon systems to Ukrainian forces. The second was to verify that the U.S. tax dollars that had been appropriated were being used efficiently and to the maximum benefit of the Ukrainian military. And third, we were asked to review the refugee evacuation and assistance operations ongoing there on the border with Ukraine. Like I say, it was difficult to witness. You know, we saw probably 20 to 40 different trains come in with you know, for up to 5,000 people on a train. The Russian military was focusing and really attacking the civilian population in a number of major cities there, not only Kyiv, but Odessa and Lviv as well. And it was very difficult to see the separation of families. In many cases, we saw moms and dads bringing their kids to the border and dropping them off with the Polish Red Cross or the Romanian Red Cross, and then going back into fight, and leaving their kids in the care of those humanitarian organizations on the border. But it was uplifting at the same time to see how quickly these refugees were resettled. So unlike the situation that I've seen many, many times in Afghanistan and Iraq, there are no refugee camps. So, for example, in Poland, probably 3 million Ukrainian refugees are in Poland right now. None of them is residing in a refugee camp. Every single one of them, every single Ukrainian refugee has been accepted into a private home. And that's a great credit to the the Polish people, the Moldovan people, and the Romanian people, that they have taken into their homes all of these refugees. And Moldova happens to be one of the poorest countries in Europe. They don't have 2 nickels to rub together, yet they shared what they had. They opened up their homes to these refugees. And I was extremely proud to see the way that our sons and daughters in the 82nd Airborne were assisting with the rearmament of the Ukrainian military forces, but also with the refugee evacuation process as well. We had a chance to meet with the Ukrainian defense minister and members of the Ukrainian parliament in exile in Romania and in Poland. And we had asked them how well the 82nd Airborne was doing. We asked the Ukrainian government how quickly they were getting weapons, and they told us that because of the 82nd Airborne and the support of the American taxpayer, that when weapon systems arrived in Poland or Romania or Moldova, within 6 hours of the arrival of those weapon systems in the bordering country, those weapons were in the hands of Ukrainian fighters. And they gave us great credit for standing with them and supporting them in their defense of freedom. So on our return to Washington, our CODEL was able to vote on the Ukraine Democracy Defense Lend-Lease Act, which President signed into law this afternoon. This act, and those of you who are students of history will recall that the Lend-Lease Act was originally an idea of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His Lend-Lease policy, enacted in 1941, aimed to help Great Britain. Churchill, who at that point in the war, this was before Pearl Harbor, Britain was fighting by themselves, alone, against Nazi aggression. So in the same spirit, we hope that this new Lend-Lease Act will ensure that shipments of munitions will arrive in Ukraine faster and more efficiently, and will, in the end, have the same result as the previous Lend-Lease Act and contribute to the defense of democracy around the world. In closing, I want to thank you all for being involved in town meeting. This is the essence of democracy, what is going on here tonight, with your help. I also have 5 town meetings tonight, so I'm going to apologize for having to rush out. But I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to represent West Bridgewater in the United States Congress. And what Chief Flaherty and the good pastor said is absolutely true. The town of West Bridgewater is a shining example of what's best about America. I see the way that you treat your seniors, the way you care for them. I see the way you honor and respect your veterans. And I see the intense way that you provide for your children, making sure that they have the education and the love and support to allow them to succeed. So thank you very much for allowing me to address town meeting, Mr. Moderator. May God bless the town of West Bridgewater, and may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have State Senator Walter Timilty here, who can provide an update on Beacon Hill.
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much. Hopefully you wanted to. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much for the warning about the cords over there. I can frequently be clumsy, as my friend Bill Flynn would attest to, so thank you for the warning. It's an honor to be here with you all tonight. Congressman Lynch obviously has done wonderful work for us in so many different ways, and it's an honor to be up on the dais, share the dais with himself. I am also keenly aware of the pressing agenda you have tonight, and I would just like to touch on 2 items. First of all, budget season is upon us in the Massachusetts State Senate. We will be undertaking our annual budget exercise the last week of May, and I've had the privilege of already engaging in a dialogue with your select board, with your school committee, with Mr. Gagney, and of course many citizens by way of email. And I would encourage anybody in this audience who has any suggestions or requests regarding the budget, if you could just send an email to myself at walter.timilty, Timilty, that is, at masenate.gov, or always feel free to call me at 617-722-1643. I think maybe half of the folks in this room might have my cell phone number, so let's try to make that 100% going forward. And the second item that I'd like to touch on, of course, is a cybersecurity conference that I hosted back in March. And one of the many privileges this great town's extended to me in serving as your state senator is to be the chair of Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee. The National Guard falls under the purview of the committee. And with that, I have the opportunity of working with citizen soldiers who are just a wonderful credit to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and to our country. The Massachusetts National Guard excels at many missions, one of which is cybersecurity. Mass National Guard currently has 2 cybersecurity battalions dedicated to defending us in terms of cybersecurity and cyber attacks. And sadly, in the very unstable world we live in, cyber attacks are not only coming our way, but they are upon us. And what I've tried to do with this cybersecurity roundtable, which the Select Board and Mr. Gagney, designated members of town government and your town employee workforce, and Mr. Gagney attended himself, is try to create a marriage between the town of West Bridgewater and the Massachusetts National Guard in terms of cybersecurity, protection of West Bridgewater and your many assets, due to rogue nations, criminal enterprises, and various malevolent actors. Cyber attacks have fallen upon this great country of ours and our Commonwealth. Cyber attacks have happened with Brockton Police Department, the City of Quincy, Sturdy Hospital, amongst other things. A cyber attack might cost a town $6 million. So with that roundtable discussion, which your town government participated in, my goal is to forge a union between the town of West Bridgewater and the Mass National Guard in terms of the Mass National Guard will come in and diagnose any weaknesses this town might have, and then provide advice and assistance going forward. With that, I just want to thank Chair Kinahan, our moderator, Vice Chair Reyes, Select Board Member Anderson, and of course, Town Administrator Dave Gagne, along with our Finance Chair, Chair Fox, our Vice Chair, Maurice McCarthy, our Clerk, Cheryl Adams, Scott Weatherby, Jim Holden, Jeff Ryan, and Cynthia McGuigan. Thank you for what you all do for our town, of course, our school committee. As Congressman Lynch so ably put, and I'm going to paraphrase slightly, this is a wonderful community, and it's my privilege to work for you folks. And I will never forget that I work for you folks. That will always be the hallmark of my service to this town. I will never forget who I work for. And with that, I thank you all very much. Congratulations to Pastor Smith. You are a wonderful example of what being a great American is all about. And it's always an honor to precede and succeed Police Chief Flaherty. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to continued work for each and every one of you. Have a good night. I can't top Congressman Lynch with 5 town meetings tonight, but I actually have 3 to attend. So with your permission, I will be on my way. And again, I thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into the town meeting. For those of you who are new here, these microphones down here, you walk up, you talk into them. Don't walk up here, just these two. Whenever you have questions, whenever you are debating or discussing something, always address it to the moderator. Never discuss it to each other. Try to always keep, if a topic has been brought up, it's been brought up. Try to address something new. Otherwise, I could cut you off. That helps the meeting go efficiently, smoothly, and make sure that everyone's voices are heard. With that being said, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:24. I'll now ask the town clerk to read the warrant into the record.
To either of the constables of West Bridgewater in the county of Plymouth, greeting. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of West Bridgewater, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet at the West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School in said town on May 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m., and then and there to act on the following articles to wit. Pursuant to within the warrant, I have this day notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of West Bridgewater qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the time and place within mentioned by posting 15 attest copies of within warrant at various locations throughout precincts 1 and 2, 7 days at least before the aforesaid annual town meeting. Bruce L. Holmquist, Constable, Town of West Bridgewater.
Thank you. Now we are going to move into the articles. Article 1 and Article 2 are consent articles. Articles and motions are listed here in the event content article is not voted as a whole. Selectwoman Aronderson?
Move that the town consider and approve Articles 1 and 2 as printed on the warrant as a single consent article.
Thank you. Second. There's a second? Perfect. Finance Committee? Anything? For the consent articles, 1 and 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Finance Committee voted unanimously.
Can you turn on the microphone?
Sorry. Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend to the town.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Thank you. No discussion? Or any? Okay, thank you. Hearing any discussion from the audience? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 3, Selectwoman Reyes.
Is it on? Okay. Move the town vote to determine the salaries of the following elected town officers for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022. Moderator, $338. Board of Selectmen, $10,375. Town Clerk, $76,588. Board of Health, $4,936. Board of Assessors, $10,539. Water Commissioners, $7,295. The following officers to serve without pay: Library Trustees, Planning Board, School Committee, Tree Warden.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted 6-0 in favor.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Would you like to speak to the motion? Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Neil Conley, 3761 Walnut Street. How many water commissioners do we have? It says it's plural. Is it 1, 2?
3.
We have 3 water commissioners. And what's the salary?
$7,295.
Apiece?
No.
Divided
by
3?
3.
All right, thank you. Are they here tonight?
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Okay. Article 4, that has to do with our town budget. So you all have your books, beautifully designed. You can follow along, and so what's going to happen is, once the motion is read, I'm going to read through all of the different positions and the total cost per whatever department, position, whatever it is. And if you have any debate, discussion on it, yell out, "Hold," and I will mark down in my book a hold for whichever office it may be. And then once we're done, we can go back to each one that there was a hold put on and discuss, debate, etc. Okay. Janice Fox?
Move that the town vote to...
Can you talk into the microphone?
Sorry. Move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $39,461,178 for the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town and other usual or necessary town charges as herein specified and requested by the Finance Committee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, for the purposes herein described, and further that the sum of $36,221,612 be raised and appropriated, and the sum of $3,239,566 be transferred as follows. From estimated water revenues, $2,139,566. From emergency medical services receipts, $400,000. From free cash to offset debt exclusion borrowing costs for the new middle senior high school, $350,000. From free cash, $350,000. Total, $3,239,566.
Thank you. So like I said, now I'm going to go through them all. Oh, sorry. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Now, I'm going to read through all of the positions, and if you have any holds, you don't have to come to the microphone, you can just shout, "Hold." Okay? Moderator, 1140 for 588. Board of Selectmen, 1220, 379,257. Finance Committee, 1310, 3,100. Reserve Fund, 1320, $67,000. Accountant, 1350, $115,763. Assessors, 1410, $263,044. Okay. Treasurer Collector, 1450, for $325,750. Town Council, 1510. Okay. That is for $87,000. Information Systems, 1550, $116,138. Cable TV Committee, 1560, for $1,100. Town Clerk, 1610, $147,795. Elections Registration, 1630, $50,466. Conservation, 1710, $135,599. Open Space Committee, 1715, for $950. Agricultural Commission, 1720, $600. Planning Board, 1750, $26,966. Board of Appeals, 1760, $6,101. Rent Control Board, 1850, $4,563. ADA Compliance Committee, 1920, $500. Insurances, 1930, $281,700. Town Hall, 1940, $68,525. Municipal Building Needs Committee, 1945, $1,486. Wastewater Treatment Facilities, 1950, $15,375. Police Department, 2100, $3,230,120. Fire Department, 2200, $2,592,597. Building, 2410, $229,985. Inspector of Gas and Plumbing, 2420, $22,724. Sealer of Weights and Measures, 2440, $6,187. Inspector of Wires, 2450, $22,724. Canine Control, 2920, $8,250. Education, $3,000. $15,258,936. Southeast Regional Votech School, 3200, $817,883. Public Works, 4215, and that is at $1,309,751. Okay. Public Works snow removal, 4230, and that's at $91,300. Okay. Public Works street lighting, 4240, and that's at $95,700. Waste disposal sanitation, 4330, and that's at $347,795. Okay. Tree warden, That is at that's 4940 at $400. Okay. Board of Health, 5110, $183,913. Okay. A New Day Women's Place Crisis Center, 5260. That comes to $2,750. Brockton Area ARC, 5270, $250. Okay. Counseling Services. Sorry. Wait, hang on. This is formatted weird. Okay. The number was right. Okay, sorry about that. Old Colony Hospice Care. That's 5280, and that's at 2,000. Okay. Council on Aging, 5410, and that's at 358,481. Veterans, 5430, that's at 66,220. Library, 6100, and that's at 501,211. Plymouth County Extension Service, 6600. That is at 200. Historic Commission, 6910, and that is at $1,750. Veterans Memorial Day, 6920, and that is at 3,500. Retirement of Debts, 7100, and that is at $1,881,586. Okay. Interest on long-term debt, 7510 at $901,251. Interest on short-term debts, 7520. Why is okay. Is it the same? Okay. Yeah, that's 50,000. Benefits, 9100, and that's at $7,234,782. Water, 4500. Okay. And that is at $2,139,566. Okay. The grand total is $39,461,178. So now, that concludes all of those departments. We're going to go back to all of the holds. Yes, I can. And we are going to start in order by when they were called, obviously. So we're going to start with the assessors.
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. We retired one of the employees in the assessor's office. Does this budget include a new, whatever he was, what was that guy's name they chased out of town? Well, they did chase him out, but I mean, what was his name?
This does include a replacement for Mr. Donahue.
It don't.
It does.
It does, and where would that be?
Appointed official,
Appointed official, 80s.
90,
So
90
he's
and change.
94, so you brought, he was making 90,000, well, he was making apparently, before he was ran out of town, whatever he was making, now it's 90,000. So we hire somebody, we don't even know how they're gonna work out of anything and give them 90,000 with benefits. And I did ask somebody that was on that, as assessor's office, and she said, we really don't need the position. So I'd like to ask one of the assessors, do we really need that position? And what does that position actually do? Here's your Tom. Nice to see you.
That position is something that's definitely needed in the office. We have a lot of growth, a lot of business, a lot of residences. I can't give you every single thing that goes on with what he does, because unfortunately I don't know. I'm just become the chair, so now I can get more involved with the hiring of the new person. We do have some applicants, so that will be getting underway very soon, but it is absolutely a vital position.
Please talk into the microphone.
Just explain, just briefly, not every little thing. He goes to the bathroom in 10 minutes and stuff. Just like, what is his main function for that position?
Really, the main is the assessment of the properties to make sure everybody gets a fair assessment, that no one's overassessed, underassessed. That goes with all of the businesses. You know, there's a lot of little things that go on in there, and reporting everything to the state so we can set the tax rate. So, well, thanks, Neil.
Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. So we have no assessor in the assessor's office that would be like the agent? Is that what that position is?
Yeah, I don't know if one of the assessors wants to talk more about it, but that's correct. He retired effective May 1st, I believe. So currently, there's a outsourced company, Patriot Property, that I believe is fulfilling those duties currently.
Okay. I would agree we need that position filled as soon as possible. Coming from where I used to work, now I'm retired, the assessor's office always had a individual that would represent them and go audit businesses and to come up with the declared value, like if you had a warehouse and stuff was in it. It's very crucial the town continues to have a way to justify the revenue that we are putting, or the assessment value we're putting on something, and then we can collect the tax.
Thank you. Any further discussion on assessors? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the town council hold.
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. Can you just, maybe Dave, the council, what do you actually do for the town for $80,000? I know it's a retainer fee. It's nice to have a lawyer in your back pocket, and I agree with it, but I'm just curious.
As you can see from the expenditures last year, Neil, we didn't come anywhere near $80,000.
I'm not worried about the money.
No,
I'm just curious.
Well, we represent the town in all legal proceedings. We review contracts for the town. We'll review the employment contract for the new assessor, which, by the way, we need because that's the person who testifies at the appellate tax board for us, as was mentioned by the previous gentleman. So we assist in all legal matters of the town.
Do we have any legal things going on now? Any lawsuits pending?
We
that
have,
you're representing us?
We have a couple of issues in the appellate tax board. Other than that, I don't think we have. We have one other case.
And what's that?
We also have, well, one of them is we are involved in the opioid litigation matter. Is a matter of general part of our class action. Same thing with water pollution. We have a class action case that we fall for the town in that. And I don't know which one you're thinking of.
We have an open MCAD case.
Oh, that's right. We have that open MCAD case on one of the employees that left.
MCAD?
Yes.
They're suing us?
She brought a complaint.
Yeah, it's weird. I've been up there. I know what it's about, but what's she claiming? I know it's a case.
She was claiming that there's a discharge wasn't warranted by the facts, but we believe they were.
All right, and one other thing, you said the opioid case. I know I was at one of the selectmen's meeting that we got involved in a class action suit, and Haley, Attorney General, she made a settlement.
Yeah.
Are we part of that settlement?
We
Do
are.
we get any money coming in?
We haven't got, that's being adjusted now. We just got an email on that about a week ago. So that hasn't been affirmed as to how much it is, how much is coming to the towns, et cetera, or the state.
And where would it go if we were to get it, Dave? Is it the police department so they can keep going, or would it just go? Huh?
Probably, yes.
All righty. Whatever.
Any further discussion on town council? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the other holds. The next hold is Public Works.
Hey, Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. I had a question in general about care of cemeteries in the town, and that's in this line item. And I just wanted to ask, where do we get the funding to do what they did to the South Street Cemetery? Because I want to compliment them on how well the South Street Cemetery looks and is maintained. So I'm not sure, because in here, there's no money hardly at all for things like that.
Thank you, Jack, for the kind words. In this budget, this is basically if we have to cut the grass or do routine maintenance at the cemeteries that we do oversee. That particular project actually came from CPC funds approved at town meeting a few years ago. And yes, they really did do an excellent job, and Chris deserves a lot of credit for overseeing that.
Any further discussion on Public Works? Hearing none, we're going to move on to Public Works snow removal.
This is for Chris, through the chair, Neil Conley, 376. Chris, is this an inflated request, or is this just to keep it if we have any bad weather? Because, I mean, usually before, when we had a snowstorm, you come back and ask for more money, but I don't hear it now. I know we're global warming, but if Dave can answer it, Dave. I don't
Okay,
care.
Neil, if I do? Okay. So almost every single budget that you approve and you vote on, you cannot deficit spend. There's a handful of exceptions, and one of them is for snow and ice deficit. So what we do is we budget the same amount every single year, and if we go over, then we have to transfer funds to make up that difference. Under the Municipal Modernization Act of 2016, and implemented 2017, the transfers now happen with the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. We no longer have to come back to town meeting because it's just transferred from other departments back into that one. So you'll see in the past fiscal year, 2021, we spent about $300,000, which means that we budgeted 91. We had to find about $200,000. We would cobble from all other budgets. We would put it back together and backfill it. But this is the one budget that during the year, we're able to deficit spend, because obviously, we are voting right now for a budget that is going to be from July of this year through June of next year. There's no way we could tell you how much we're going to have for snow and ice a year from now.
All right, by the way, I just want to say, they do an excellent job. They always have since I lived here, and I know they got new equipment and everything like that, but they do deserve credit for what they do.
Any further discussion on the snow removal? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the next hold, waste disposal sanitation. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we are going to move on to the next hold, retirement of debts.
Neil Conley, 376 Wall Street. Can you just explain what that actually is? The only reason I would have been coming to more financial meetings, but I've been in Florida, thank God. But anyways, can you just say what it is and how the money comes and what we do with it?
The retirement of debt is the long-term bonded debt that we have. So whenever we've taken out 20 or 30-year loans, it's broken down a bit in those sections there. So like the first line item is for the senior middle high school, and then there's a few other smaller projects in the other line items.
Are we meeting all our debts? We paying them on time?
Yep, very much so.
In the school?
Yeah.
All righty, thank you.
Any further discussion on retirement of debts? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to the next hold, which is water, and that is the last hold.
If I'm in order, Mr. Moderator, because if I'm not, I'm going to do it after the budget. Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. What's going on with the water? Is there any money in this budget that fixes anything, or is this just for salaries and everything like that? Because I know we're talking just the budget. I mean, I go on Facebook, the Hub, and people, Copeland Street, they complain about the water, the color, it don't taste good, and are we doing anything about it? Or is it unfixable? I remember Rick Kruger, he said last year, like, the state might be coming up, we need $3 million, and we won't know where we're going to get it from. Am I in order? If not, I'll make a motion afterwards.
So I don't know if they want to speak further, but this is just for the general operating budget. There are a couple
I'll hold
articles. You'll hear a couple articles later on.
Any further discussion on water? So that concludes all the holds. Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Okay. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion to table these articles so somebody from the Water Commissioner can come up and explain what's going on with the water in the town, if there is a real problem or it's a motion. And I'd like to hear from them what's going on.
Are you asking to move the articles pertaining to the water to right now?
Correct. But the motion is to table the articles so a Water Commissioner to come up and let the town know what's going on with the town water.
In which specific article? Because there's a couple water
It is not an article. I'm just going just outside the article. So they come up here. I have a complaint about the water, which I don't, but I hear the water like on Copeland Street and things like that.
No, we can't do that. What we can do is we can move the order of one of the articles, one of the water-related articles, to right now, if you'd like, or
Well, I'm
we
going
can
to
just
argue
wait.
with it. I can't make a motion to table these articles so we can have this. That is an order. That's Robert's Rules of Order.
We're town meeting times. We're not Robert's Rules
Same
of Order.
difference, not
No,
much
it's-
difference.
All right. So we're going to move on. Article 5. Paula Bunker.
Move that the town accept the provisions of Section 4 of Chapter 73 of the Acts of 1986 and to further accept the provisions of Chapter 126 of the Acts of 1988, which will grant a percentage increase to real estate tax exemptions to persons who are otherwise qualified for such exemptions, and further to increase the real estate tax exemptions to persons so qualified by 25% for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you. And there was a second. Okay. Would you like to speak to the motion? Oh, sorry. Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommended unanimously.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion? Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 6, Chris Iannatelli.
Move that the town vote to accept and authorize to spend $323,829 from the town's apportionment of Chapter 90 local transportation aid funding for fiscal year 2023 in accordance with the figures released by the Mass Department of Transportation in accordance with Chapter 86 of the Acts of 2008.
Thank you. And there was a second. Okay. Finance Committee?
Recommend unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
This money is what's appropriated through Chapter 90 for our road construction every year. And this year, we were appropriated $327,000.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. Can we get an explanation on where we're going to spend that, what'd you say, 300,000?
Sure.
If you remember last year, we did Route 106. It just about took the whole budget that we had appropriated. This year, we have a number of streets that we're working to get ready. The worst locations or the worst streets in town, there'll be parts of North Elm Street, Milebrook Road, and Columbus Avenue.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 7, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues, the following amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, open space, historic resources, and community housing reserves, and other expenses in fiscal year 2023, with each item to be a separate appropriation or reserve. The appropriations are from FY 2023 estimated revenues for committee administrative expenses is $10,750. From FY 2023 estimated revenues for open space reserve is $0. From FY 2023 estimated revenues for historic resource reserve is $0. From FY 2023 estimated revenues for community housing reserve is $21,500. From FY 2023 estimated revenues for undesignated funds is $0.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This is our typical budget designation. It puts the money into the specific buckets. You're supposed to have 10% for each one, and some for administrative expenses, and it just is kind of directing the money.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Okay. Article 8, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to transfer $6,051 to Community Housing Reserve from CPA unreserved fund balance to meet the 10% state requirement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee? No.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
This was, I believe, an adjustment due to extra money from the state last year.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 9, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate $64,751 from FY23 Community Preservation Fund estimated budget revenue to fund the debt service for the open space project of the new playground at Friendship Park.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would like to speak to the motion?
This is, the project was bonded, and this is a payment. This is for this year.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. How much money do we have actually in that fund?
I don't have an actual, I don't have an actual budget balance right now. The The fund balance is fluid because there's so many payments
Yeah.
coming in and
Yeah.
going out.
All right, whatever. I mean, you do it, it's good. That's the money that comes from the local tax, from when you go to the restaurants. Am I right by saying
No,
that?
it comes from the Registry of Deeds.
Registry of
And,
Deeds.
yeah, and then everybody here pays 1%.
For when you go to a restaurant, correct?
No,
No?
it's just the Registry of Deeds.
All righty.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 10, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2023 fund balance for community housing a sum up to $125,000 under the category of housing to be expended by the Housing Authority for repairs at the housing for elderly at Esther Drive.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee,
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Like to speak to the motion?
I don't know if anybody is here from housing, but I believe this is for windows. Window replacement, correct? Yep.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 11, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to transfer $30,000 from the town's community preservation fund balance for open space and $6,000 from the FY '23 estimated budget revenue of the community preservation fund for the town's share of the acquisition cost to enable the town and the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources to acquire an agricultural preservation restriction for open space and conservation purposes under Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, on 62 acres, more or less, known as the Shady Oak Howard Farm on River Street, West Bridgewater, Plymouth County, Mass., being parcels 21 and 38, map 52, as shown on the West Bridgewater's assessor's maps, and that the Board of Selectmen be authorized to enter into any agreements and execute all instruments relative to the acquisition of the APR.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee,
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
I believe everybody probably remembers Anderson Farm. That was our first CPA project that we funded. This is exactly the same. The land would be put into a restriction, and it could only be used for agricultural purposes.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Oh, all those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Both those parcels on the map. That's what I wanted.
Article 12, Cheryl Cambria.
Move that the town vote to appropriate from the FY 2023 Community Preservation Fund's estimated revenues a sum of $125,000 under the category of historic to be expended by the Department of Public Works for stone wall repairs in War Memorial Park.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee,
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This is an emergency project, and as everybody can see from the pictures, there's some, the walls falling in. It's a dangerous situation, so we were able to put a project application in to address it.
Any discussion?
Before she goes away, I want to ask her, what are we doing for funds for the park that we're going to end up building on Lincoln Street, and when are we going to start spending money for that? Because I don't see it in this year's budget.
We just hired a designer for that project a few weeks ago, so they're working on the design. We anticipate having a special town meeting in the fall.
Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 13, Cheryl Cambria.
Last one. Move that the town vote to appropriate $5,000 from the Community Preservation Fund estimated budget revenue to fund the historic project, the Memorial and Veterans Day Veterans Legacy Committee Recognition Project.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
like to speak to the motion?
This is a new project that they will be doing research into all the gravestones to identify past veterans, and once identified, they will be putting appropriate plaques on each stone.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have unanimously. Article 14, Scott Golder.
Move that the town raise and appropriate a sum of $100,000 to fund other post-employment benefits liability trust fund established in accordance with Chapter 32B, Section 20 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
The OPEB trust is for retirement benefits, for health insurance mostly. The credit rating agencies look very favorably upon continuously funding this, and in the future, if we need, we can take money out of it to help pay for health insurance.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 15, Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town raise and appropriate a sum of $10,000 as the town's match for the Web Task Force in FY '23.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
As most of you know, since about the late 90s, we had a grant. The grant has run out, but we share resources with 5 different other communities now, and this is just a match in there, so basically it's a sharing of resources.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 16, Chris Anatelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $150,000 to be expended by the Department of Public Works for the construction and engineering of sidewalks.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
We've been lucky to get a warrant article in the last several years for sidewalk improvements and engineering, and we are beginning to get some good results on this, so we want to continue this process.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 17, Chris Anatelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer a sum of $1,389 from the Commonwealth Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund to be expended for the construction and engineering of sidewalks.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
This is the third year that we have received this. It's for Uber rides in West Bridgewater. We get 20 cents for every ride that originates from West Bridgewater. And then we have decided to put that money into sidewalk construction.
Any discussion?
Hi, Judy Connors, 92 Mayos Ave. My question is, do we have a construction committee for the sidewalks, and how are we deciding what sidewalks takes precedence over other sidewalks?
Sure.
So when we received our first grant from Complete Streets a couple of years ago, before we received the grant, we had to set up a committee that did a prioritization plan for where the sidewalks were going to be, and we came up with 31 locations of either sidewalk or intersection improvements. And so we're working our way through that now. If you have noticed, we started on Howard Street. We did a sidewalk in front of the police and fire. We were able to get a grant for a sidewalk in front of the Memorial Park. And right now, we're currently engineering sidewalks from the park to Howard Street on River. And we're going to make that complete loop. We're also trying to come up with ideas for reconstruction of old sidewalks in town. A very, very expensive project. So we kind of inch our way through this a little bit at a time. And we will be going for another grant in September for $400,000 from the state to help us with this.
Any discussion on the motion?
Paul Collins, 92 Mayolas. I know a couple of the sidewalks on North Elm. Some of the storm, there's probably 5 or 6 storm drains that are completely out of compliance. I mean, they're dangerous. You're talking like a 2-foot drop. But these sidewalks have not, I mean, I've been here 30 years and I've had neighbors that have been here 50, 60 years, and the sidewalks have never been attended to. They're a disgrace. I agree. I mean, you walk around at night. Me and my wife walk every night, and you need a flashlight, and even then you're playing hopscotch on the sidewalks. I think they're a disgrace.
I agree with it. I've been here 62 years, and the sidewalks on Spring, North Elm, and so forth have not been updated since I was a kid. So it's a process that we're going through. It's very slow. It's around $150 a foot to build a sidewalk. $150. That's curb and engineering, asphalt, and all that goes with it, moving telephone poles if we have to, cutting down trees, retainage walls that we have to rebuild if we need to do that. So these grants that we're going for, this new infrastructure money that should be coming along our way, we're really hopeful that we're going to be able to grab some of that.
Neil Conley, 376 Walnut Street. And you know, when you sit here, we elect these officials, and they can do it so much. But if you just had Timothy here, you had your congressman here, Elizabeth Warren, whether you like them, whatever party it is, you can email them and keep writing them and harassing them through emails, letting them know that we need more money than what you're giving us. Because there's more money out there. I don't know if we're getting every penny that we should be getting, but they can only do so much. It's like if you want to get something done, you got to do it yourself. So get on the emails to say, we want our sidewalks done, we want this, we want that. And they'll listen to you, because nobody, believe me, I've been an elected official, I know it, they talk a good game, but when it comes time to show up and do something, nobody wants to do it. But just start emailing them, and they'll respond.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have unanimously. Okay. Article 18. This is a 2/3 vote. Chris Anatelli.
Move that the town vote to borrow a sum of $462,339 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to build a new transfer station building, including site work, septic, and any related accessory items.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Okay. Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee was split on this one, recommended by a majority, 4-2.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This seems like a lot of money for a shed. But the days of a shed are over. If anyone has set foot in the current building that's down there at the transfer station, it's not in very good shape for many, many reasons. We came to town meeting a couple years ago and asked for 18 grand for site work, which we did, the engineering, and we perked an area for a septic system. This type of building, well, you can see the existing building is obviously in extremely poor condition. But the new building would be a prefab building similar to what you might see as a guardhouse at a base, for instance. The building itself would be around $163,000, and that would include ADA bathrooms, plumbing, electrical, AC, heat, and all that has to go with it, okay, to come up to the requirements. We would need a generator, obviously, to operate those compactors, alarms, security system, lighting, a new pad, demolition of the old building, septic system, as I mentioned. It adds up. And we did put in some buffers into this budget with the hope that we won't need to spend it. But because of the cost of things, we just wanted to be careful that we weren't under budgeting this project.
Any discussion?
Is this a borrowing item? So I think, Scott, would you be able to answer? Are we going to be borrowing money for this from a bank? And if we are, how do we go about doing it?
Yes, this would be a borrowing item. This would, for now, go on our annual municipal purpose loan, which I take out every October or November or so. Last year, we borrowed at 0.4% at about $2.5 million. The interest rates are going up right now, so this year I'm predicting about 1.5% borrowing, but we don't know where it'll go from there.
And how do, I'm sorry.
If we end up bonding something long-term, we could fold this into a longer-term project for something like the water projects that are coming up, or a school or something. So we could add this to long-term borrowing then. Otherwise, we'd have 10 years to pay it down as a short-term borrowing item.
So are we going to do it as a long-term or a short-term?
Short-term for now, and then if we can fold it into a long-term bonded item, we would do that.
Would that be the way to go? I mean, I figure you'd pay off your debt anyway.
Yeah, it's the most efficient way.
All righty, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Peter Turner, 390 Forest Street. Mr. Moderator, could I please get a majority and minority opinion, please, from the Finance Committee?
So the discussion in the Finance Committee was just the cost and borrowing the funds, and some of us were a little uncomfortable with how much it is. I understand what Chris is saying in terms of the cost of everything, but this just seemed like a lot of money. So we had a lot of discussion about this and ended up going 4-2.
So my question is, if we reject it, what's the plan for the current building, and how would we work around it?
Yeah, that, if I can just, that was part of the discussion, as well as a concern about the employees that work there, because that building's in pretty bad shape.
Eric Atkinson, 25 Emerson Ave. Don't we already have a generator right now that's brand new? We have a generator right now that's brand new, right? Correct?
Where?
At the transfer station.
I can speak on that if you like.
Okay.
So that generator that's at the transfer station is a portable generator that was purchased, well, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more, okay? In order for it to operate, it has to be literally plugged in, and fleet mechanic has to be called to do it. None of us want to get near it. It's not a situation where it's hardwired. It doesn't belong in that particular setting, and what we would do is trade it in and sell it, and perhaps get $30,000 to $40,000 for it, and get a generator that's fixed like any other building in town.
So I still want to go back to my question, because I didn't really get an answer as to what our options are if we reject it. Are we going to, is it feasible to continue to use the existing facility, or what's the Board of Selectmen feel we should be doing here?
I've had the opportunity to go in the building. We need to replace the building. The employees simply shouldn't be working in there. It's just not a good standard for our town employees to be working in that dilapidated building.
Hi, Vic Palmieri, 398 East Street. What's the future of rubbish pickup in our town anyway? We're going to build a $400,000 building, and
That's out of
2
scope.
years from now, we're going to go to pick up at everybody's house? Is that anything that's on the table, or?
That's out of scope for the article.
Not that I'm aware of, no. So it's feasible to rehab what's there because we don't know the future of rubbish pickup, right?
Rehab, no, on the existing. The building needs to be demolished.
Yeah, I know it's in bad shape. I've been in there.
Yeah.
I've been in there.
I have not heard any plans on the idea of trash pickup for the town. The transfer station seems to be working well, and it has for many, many, many years. It's the best bargain in the state.
I agree.
So,
I agree with that.
yeah.
25 Emerson Ave, would the average size of a residential septic system is 1,500, somewhere around that? 1,500 gallons? Right? We have one employee. I mean, granted, the building is in bad shape. The size of this building that you're showing for one employee, that's all that's down there all day long. I mean, he doesn't need the Taj Mahal, okay? He needs something better than what he has now, but he doesn't need a Taj Mahal. That generator that Chris spoke on, I don't remember it being there 10 years ago. And now I'm not saying anyone's a liar. I'm just saying I don't recall it being there 10 years ago. It's newly put in. It's newly designed. And we do have monitoring systems right now, cameras, whatnot. I mean, yes, when you're going to build a new building, you're going to update, et cetera, change things around. But $463,000, that's a lot of money. We do have the best deal in town, in the state. I mean, hands down. You guys, the transfer station they're doing a great job down there. But that's a lot of money. And what is, my question on the residential, I guess, the septic system, is what are we proposing here for there's one guy going to the bathroom down there all day long, maybe two. I'm just asking.
Yeah, sure. The septic system was designed, or was approved by our Board of Health, so they felt that it was appropriate for what's there. It's a public building, so if a resident stops in or a town employee stops in, they certainly can use the bathroom. It will have an ADA bathroom, which is required. It will also have a shower for the employee in case he gets himself or anybody else gets himself into chemicals or anything else. So trust me, we have gone over this now for about 2 years trying to come up with this plan. And the costs, whether you call it COVID costs or because of the war, is out of control. We have contingencies set in this that we hope we will not have to use. There is money put in there to protect us so that we don't have to come back and say, oops, we didn't have enough money. We're certainly hoping it won't cost this much, but we all know what construction costs are. As far as the generator, it looks new, but it has been there for several years. It was there before I took over 5 years ago. So that's all I can speak of on that.
Paul Connors, 29 Cross Street.
I'm in the construction field in the city of Boston, and the prices of construction products, metal, everything, is at the highest it's ever been in the history. And understandably, that building does need to be, if not demolished, completely renovated. Is this the best possible time to do something like this with construction costs, building products, everything at the price it's at right now? I think it can be renovated to a costly manner instead of completely demolished and rebuilding at the price of an 1,800 square foot home. That's all.
Judy Connors, 92 Mayolas. So I know you guys said you've discussed it. Has anybody mentioned like a modular type of unit at a much lesser price? I mean, as Eric mentioned, the Taj Mahal. I mean, why do we need ADA bathroom and all of that? I mean, why wouldn't it just a sufficient modular home?
Sure. This is a prefab building. We are required to do ADA. It's going to obviously have heat and electricity. It's going to have AC. It's not going to have an air conditioner stuck on the window like it has down there now. As far as renovating this building, it's out of the question. It has to be demolished. We saw pictures up here of the mold and the leaks and so forth. You've got a huge amount of electrical panels in there for those compactors that require a good, secure building. The employee is a town employee. There is no other town employee that would work in conditions like that. And 5 years ago, when I took over, we began this process. We had no idea how things were going to progress into costs. But things have progressed. We are still pushing forward to do it. We could even say that by the time we're ready to do this by midsummer, end of summer, that some of these costs could have come down. Okay, our engineer has been doing municipal buildings and these types of things all over the state, and he is just bewildered at costs of things now. And we all are, I think. Any of us that are putting up any type of, doing any type of construction at home. So it is the time. We can't help that we're at this point right now, but we're trying to move forward with this, so.
It won't be the dead horse, but if you say that's a health issues in there, and that gentleman's in there working there, mold, air quality, he should be out of there, because he can sue the town, he gets sick and something like that, then what's it gonna cost us? He shouldn't even be in that building. I seen the back of it, and I know and I remember when it was small and we added on to it, we added siding to it to make it look good. But I'm telling you, if there's mold in there, even as a town lawyer, you should be recommending him to get him the hell out of there.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. Again, this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It's too close to call. So we are going to do a hand count. You all had, when you checked in, your slip. So we're going to have some volunteers come up to count the votes. We need 4 volunteers.
I'll volunteer. I swear. If you want, I'll help you. If not, don't worry about it.
Whatever that street is.
You want me to help you?
Coming 124th and south onto Bridgewater.
Tell us what you wanted to do.
Old people are flying down the pass. They're running lows.
Oh, I'm not helping. I can't help.
Pass them. I mean, they're going.
You're helpful.
It's the employees that are employed at Amazon. It's just started with Amazon, because if you take a left, go down coming down South Elm Street, and you take a left, whatever that street, I can't think. And then the people coming from under 24 to take a right south, they're not even slowing down. They're not even using any turn signal or whatever. And what it is the fact that neither way has a yield sign or stop sign. If I'm coming south on South Elm Street, take a left, there's no yield sign there. And from coming north on South Elm Street, up from Route 24 to take a right to that road, there's no yield sign there.
I'm going to talk with Chris, I'll send
Yeah,
somebody
well, I
down.
talked to Chris a couple of weeks ago, we've been too busy. I mean,
One has
one's-
to have a yield.
What?
One's got a yield.
Right. One's gotta have a yield sign either left on. I don't think, no.
Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is that Jason's going to ask everyone who is for the article to raise their yellow card. The counters will come through and count, and then once that's done, he'll ask you to put it down, and he'll ask the people that are against it to raise their cards, and then the counters will count those, and we will come up with a final figure.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, raise up your yellow cards and allow time for the counters to count. Is all counting concluded for the ayes? Okay, now we are going to go to the nays. If you are against the motion, please raise up your yellow card and allow the counters to count your vote.
Article 18.
results are in. There were 69 yeas, 32 noes. The motion passes with 68.3%. Motion passes. Article 19, Chris Antelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $231,438 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to purchase a 2023 Western Star truck and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle to be taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Hearing the second, Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This truck will replace a 17-year-old truck, an F-750, 2005 Ford. The F-750 has frame and structural rot and has been on our capital budget for about 3 years, knowing that it was progressing to the point where we would have to take it off the road. It will not get a sticker this year, and structural repairs, if done, would cost more than what the truck is worth.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing, come to the microphone, please.
Peter Turner. In the absence of Mr. Lucini, will this vehicle be able to do the turns in the road? This looks like it has a plow on the front of it for plowing. Will it be able to make the corners in the road?
Yes. Yes, it will.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Was that a no? Okay. Motion passes. Yes, by majority, not unanimously. Article 20, Chris Antelli.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $81,047 to be expended by the Department of Public Works to purchase a John Deere tractor with attachments.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
So this new John Deere tractor will replace a 15-year-old John Deere tractor that has become obsolete in supporting attachments for roadside mowing. We'll keep the old tractor as a small front-end bucket for landscape-type work around town. While we could find an attachment for the older tractor, it would not be guaranteed to work as it should, since it would have to be retrofitted. The new John Deere tractor with this boom mower will have about a 5-foot longer reach than the current one. It will also mow as well as do roadside brush. And it will become a handy tool in maintaining swales and drainage ditches, which we are becoming known for. The more we do stormwater management, these types of swales are becoming more common, and they are a lot of work to maintain.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, Neil Conley, how much do we have in free cash? Because I'm looking down the article list. Why didn't we just buy the transfer station out of free cash? I mean, we have all that money. I mean,
Lorna, could you, I put up, I knew Neil would ask this question, so I created this.
I was going to take it out of your paycheck, but I don't want to.
So you'll see that we entered the year with $1.5 million. $700,000 has already been approved because that was part of your budget, $350,000 to pay down your debt. on the school, $350,000 to offset the rest of the budget. That means you're spending about $800,000 on all other capital projects, so there wasn't enough left to be able to do the $462,000 for the transfer station.
Is there any money left after these articles on free cash?
Yeah, $5,198.
Any further discussion?
Scott Ames, 4 Stonecroft Farm Lane. How come you showed us a picture of a tractor that's not a John Deere?
The tractor is a John Deere. The attachment is orange, I think, is what you're seeing there in front of it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Article 21, Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $20,095 to be expended by the police department to purchase a 2022 Harley-Davidson motorcycle and authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle to be taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would like to speak to the motion?
This purchase will replace a 2007 that we currently have.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 22, Chief Flaherty.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $48,990 to be expended by the police department to purchase a 2022 Ford Mark Cruiser and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle to be taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
This is just to replace one of our current Explorers. Unfortunately, the new models now change everything, so all the equipment has to be updated too. That's why it's a little higher than normal.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 23, Chief Thibault.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $11,724 to be expended by the fire department to pay for the town's share of 2 FEMA AFG grants.
Second.
Hearing a second. The Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
The fire department currently has 3 assistance to firefighter grants, which are a 95% cost share. So this is the 5% that the town would have to bring up for if we get approved for these grants. 2 of the grants, one is for self-contained breathing apparatus, and the other is for a power load system for our existing ambulance.
Mr. Moderator, through you, Chief, if you could just clarify, is it for 1 grant or 2?
It is for 2 grants.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the article? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Article 24, Marilyn Mather.
Move that the town vote to transfer free cash to the sum of $56,318 to be expended by the Council on Aging to purchase a 2022 8-passenger full-size transit van and authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of the vehicle to be taken out of service in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
like to speak to the motion?
Yes. This will be to replace a 2012 van, which is a 14-passenger. However, the undercarriage is rotted out, there's a lot of leaking, and worst of all, that the manifold has gone on it. It's going to cost upwards to $11,000 to do the structural damage to the van and some of the other workings. However, it's going to cost another $5,000 for the manifold.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 25, Marilyn Mather.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $6,500 to be expended by the Council on Aging to seal coat and line paint the Council on Aging parking lot.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
We now have a health hazard or a danger to our seniors with walkers and canes. It's uneven ground, and we have pretty large crevices that need to be repaired.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Article 26, Ed Sarro.
That the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $133,756 to be expended by the network administrator to upgrade the town's Wi-Fi system.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, we're going to upgrade the entire Wi-Fi system for the entire town, the schools, town hall, public safety, the whole system, and it'll all be under a central controller.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 27, Ed Sarro.
That the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $24,500 to be expended by the network administrator to upgrade the town's server software.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, this is to upgrade the operating system on the servers. We're currently using version server software 2008. We're going to be upgrading to 2019.
Now, is that the police department, fire department?
Yep, the entire town network.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 28, Ed Sarro.
That the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $8,856 to be expended by the network administrator to replace the Council on Aging workstations.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen,
Recommend unanimously.
would like to speak to the motion?
Yep, these are the oldest computers that we have in the district, and we need to get them replaced. Oh, I'm sorry. These are the oldest computers that we have in the district. I've been... What do I keep turning away from it? We'll try it again. These are the oldest computers in the district, and we've been replacing them as we go. We want to get these replaced too, with bigger monitors.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Article 29, Donna Holm.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $37,900 to be expended by the
Would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
All right then, well, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 30, Donna Holm.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $16,390 to be expended by the school committee to purchase a boiler heat exchanger for the middle senior high school.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to this motion?
No.
Okay, well, is there any discussion? Okay.
Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. Didn't we just build this building about 10 years ago? And what does this boiler heat exchanger do for the school that what we bought 10 years ago doesn't do? So I want to know why we need to spend the money.
Mr. Bodwell.
Mark Waddle, Superintendent of Schools. This is part of a 3-boiler system. It's a heat exchange for one of them that's not working properly. Spent a lot of money trying to fix it. It's just not repairable. So it's going to make sure that the heat is evenly distributed within the school.
Can you please speak in the
It
microphone?
is past warranty.
Any, okay.
Paula Bunker, 123 North Elm. Mark, the stories have gone around, there's been a problem with this boiler since the school was built. Is that true that there's been problems with this? And if it has been, why wasn't it done under warranty?
I'm sure there were problems all along. I mean, they've been working on them. I don't know if when the warranty expired. It was not during my tenure. But they have, tried to find fixes within. It's coming this way. I got it.
Here it goes.
It'll be right here. That's multitasking at its finest right there. They can, I think they've, I mean, they've fixed it along the way. It's past warranty, therefore it needs to be replaced. Just the heat exchange, not the entire boiler itself.
All right, just to clarify, so the problems that you've had with the boiler, they were all taken care of under warranty, and this is something completely different? And with all the times, is there a service contract that they come in and do regular maintenance on these things, and nobody picked up that there was a problem?
The head of Buildings and Grounds has worked with our service contractor throughout the entire time. They've worked on the problems, they've fixed them. We can no longer Band-Aid the heat exchange, which has to be replaced, which is a much cheaper alternative than replacing the other boilers. With a 3-boiler system, the redundancy works because they're all working at different times. This will decrease the life of those 2 remaining boilers.
Right, no, of course, because 2 can't do the job that 3 are supposed to do. But so the problem now, though, it's not as a result of all the prior problems. So it's not, what the problem you're having right now where it has to be replaced, it wasn't caused by all the previous things?
I can't speak to that.
Okay, because if it was a problem, if it was created by all the other stuff, I would think, though, then it would have to be covered under warranty if it was a pre-existing problem that they never fixed.
It wasn't, the problems did not occur during the warranty time, it was after the warranty.
Sorry, Mr. Bodwell, but heat exchangers, are they all 3 boilers the same and all 3 heat exchangers the same? Are they all tied into this? Is one heat exchanger do all 3 boilers? How does this work?
I believe a heat exchange for each boiler.
So all 3 of the same boilers have the same heat exchanger, and we have one that's bad?
One that's no longer working.
What's the chances that boiler number 2 and boiler number 3 heat exchanger will be gone?
Can't speak to
I used to work at power plants, and we had heat exchangers last 25 years. This didn't last 10 years. I don't understand that. What is it? A tube in? What kind is it?
I cannot.
It's, who was on the school committee that built the building? Can they speak more to this? The committee members that were here when we built the building, as to why we got this? I mean, I like to spend free cash because we have it. It's cheap. We don't really pay for it out of our next coming budgets or whatever. So it's a good idea to do this, but I'm looking at the big picture. If we have 3 boilers and we have 3 heat exchangers and we have the first one to go, what do we need to budget for next year, and why? Are we replacing it in kind? Is it the exact same one?
I don't expect something.
I mean...
Jack, if I may. Oh. Jim Holden, 70 Roosevelt Ave. I was on the school committee at the time the school was built. There's 3 heating units, Jack, out back. All 3 of them are required to run indirectly or individually, depending on the call for heat throughout the building. As you're aware, they also, when the school is full during the wintertime, and only during the wintertime, do they all run at once. Unfortunately, the heat exchanger on this unit, and I'm not sure which one it is, it's one of the 3 obviously, did go after its warranty. They have been known to have problems with these units, which we did not or were not aware of until after the fact when the school was completed. We also know for a fact that East Bridgewater has the same types of systems, and theirs went within a year. I'm not going to say that's a good thing that ours lasted 8 years, but unfortunately we are faced with the problem of fixing it, and so therefore we don't have a choice. I hope that answers your question. If not, we'll have to look into it a little more. Thank you.
Paul Connors, 29 Cross Street. So there's 3 heat exchangers, correct? So one of them went down. The other 2 were working 1.5 times as hard to make up for the 3rd one that was down. So when they were put in brand new 8-10 years ago when the school went in, there were originally problems with it, correct?
I'm not sure if there were problems with the heat exchange. No.
But there were problems with the system that ultimately led to the failure of one of the 3 heat exchangers that we've been band-aiding. So technically, the company should, if they're band-aiding and that ends up going down, that company should cover that. Understandably, we do have to replace it, I get that, and the other 2 systems are working twice as hard to replace the 3rd one to power the system. That company should cover that. If we've had numerous problems with the system, and now it's ultimately led to the failure of one of the 3, that company should cover that. I mean, someone should look into that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 31, Donna Holm.
Move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $25,956 to be expended by the school committee to purchase an HVAC control upgrade for the middle senior high school.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would like to speak to the motion?
This is to take control of each of the rooftop units down to a centralized control in the maintenance area that also allows for remote access to it, which will increase the efficiency of the heating system.
Any discussion?
Paula Bunker, 123 North Elm. Why do we have to move them? Why weren't they put there in the first place?
That was the design that was done. I can't speak to why it was put there, but it's a much more efficient way to manage a system, having it off the rooftop units and into a centralized location.
No, I'm sure you're right, it does make more sense. That's why I just didn't know who had the bright idea of putting it up on the roof.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 32, Wayne Parks.
Move that the town vote to transfer from water surplus the sum of $41,905 to be expended by the water commissioners to purchase a new gate operating machine.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
We have a gate operating machine. It's inside of a van. It's OSHA non-compliant. It's a wonder somebody's not dead or the van isn't burnt up at this time. Gate operating allows us to operate our gates. When I came here 16 years ago, we operated all the gates in town. We did it over a 3-year period. We broke a lot of them because they hadn't been operated in a very long time. It allows us, when we have a water main break, to quickly respond and shut down the service and work on the water main break. It's kind of hard to work on a water main break. You got 1,000-gallon minutes pouring out at you. So operating the gates and keeping them so that we can send out one guy to shut down a gate and send another guy in a different direction to shut down a gate speeds up the process.
Any discussion on the motion?
Curious, how much money do we, Neil Conley, through the chair, I'd like to ask, how much money do we have in the water surplus? And what is water surplus, the money?
So water surplus is taken in by rates and by other fees.
And how much, any idea how much we have in water surplus?
There currently is probably about 400,000 plus or minus.
If I'm in order, Mr. Moderator, you asked me to hold off. Can we table this and ask what's going on with the town water now that we've got 3 commissioners here? Are you the moderator? Are you the moderator? No. Thank you.
How, within the scope of this question, would it?
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, we have, it's town meeting, and there's a water problem supposedly, I don't know.
So I pay for 4 phone lines. They're manned all the time. My office manager takes home a cell phone that communicates with her at home. There have been no calls from Copeland Street to our office. I understand where you're seeing it. I don't look out there. I deal with the 4 phone lines that I pay for. I have worked with the residents of Copeland Street directly, and I've actually pinned him down, and he wouldn't respond back to me. He said he didn't want to take the time. But we have gone to that problem directly and worked with them.
Oh, that's why I'm asking. I appreciate it. I'm not saying, do we have a water problem? They say it's gray, it's no good, I don't care. I've been in this town 33 years.
So we also log all of our complaints?
This is getting out of scope of the question.
The other one that let it, she got out of order. You didn't call her out of order. He started to answer. You should have told him it's out of order. He's answering the question, that's all. You should have called the question out of order.
Neil, I'm always there. You can come and ask at any time.
I mean, this will put it all
Okay,
together right here.
please, we're going to move to the vote if there's no other discussion relevant to the article. Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously.
All right, the next two articles.
One moment, please. Article 23. Sorry, 33. Mr. Parks.
All right. Hopefully I'm not out of order, but the next 2 articles will deal with water quality. Move that the town vote to borrow a sum of $240,000 to be expended by the Water Commissioners for the Sears Street Norman Ave pilot study.
You're reading the wrong line.
Oh.
33.
You skipped one.
It's a tough crowd, I'm just trying to get through. Oh, yes, I did. All right, this one's not, well, it is water quality also. Move that the town vote to borrow a sum of $646,100 to be expended by the Water Commissioners for the tank water age assessment altitude valve, North Elm Street.
Second. Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
All right, this article is actually 3 pieces. The first is the tank water age assessment. The Walnut Street tank was built in response to the town's negotiations with a beverage company and 2 car dealerships, from what I remember. The water department knew there was not enough water to supply the future businesses. They had a site for the tank. It was purchased decades ago. The water department took their MBTA money, found a matching grant, and ran new pipes and built the tank. Negotiations failed between the town and the 3 businesses. Now we have a tank with minimal residential usage, no commercial draw. We cannot draw enough water from it due to low usage in the area. We cannot fill it high enough to force any draw on it due to the hydraulic grade line of the system. Water seeks the path of least resistance, and it fills the North Elm Street tanks first. Our SCADA system shuts down the pumps. The water is aging out in the tank and failing our monthly bacteria tests. I gotta take it off. The second and third part are tied together. It is engineering into the system an altitude valve on the 16-inch feed line into the North Elm Street tanks. It would be placed down in a vault. The altitude valve works off the back pressure it feels from the water in the tanks or tanks depending on how they engineer it. When the North Elm Street tanks are full, it slowly closes. Now the pumps stay running, force the water to the Walnut Street tank, and fill it all the way. The SCADA system would then shut the pumps down. With the tank full, with the Walnut Street tank full and the North Elm Street tanks full, the system floats. The water floats the system. It then gives the aquifer time to recharge, pumps time to rest.
Okay. Finance Committee? Okay. Thanks. Finance Committee?
On 33, recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Okay. So, is there any discussion?
So, Jack Hughes, 640 North Elm Street. So if I understand this correctly, we need to pass Article 33, 34, and 35, or we can't do this?
No, this is separate.
These are all, we vote on these articles all separately. They're not combined together.
So Article 34 has nothing to do with the
There are 3
age?
engineering pieces in this one piece.
Okay.
But by the order of the town meeting, they are voted on as separate articles, if that
Correct.
clears up the confusion.
So if we vote yes or no on 33, what happens if we vote no on 33 and then vote yes on 34? Can we do it or not?
The rest of the articles aren't tied to this one article.
But will it work if, that's my question. He needs all 3 articles to make this work, right?
No. This has 3 engineering pieces. The water age assessment, the engineering of the altitude valve, and then the installation of the altitude valve. The other articles stand on their own.
So if we pass 34, what are you going to do at Sears Street, Norman Avenue, that would be different, that's not involved in?
So they have to do with water quality directly.
Okay.
This is water quality of aging. Those are water quality of things in the water.
That was my question. So we can say no and it doesn't matter for 34 and 35, right? Or we can say yes to all 3, whatever we decide. It
Yes,
doesn't,
whatever.
they're not tied together.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was trying to clarify.
Is there any further discussion?
Thank you. Judy Connors, 92 Mayolas. Can you just explain, You explained about dealership and negotiations. Can you explain that to us better? And
So the tank was designed to feed something. It was, and the pipes were run to feed that. That failed. What we have now down there is a solar panel array. That they don't use any water. Okay. So now we have a tank that has water, but there's not enough being pulled out of it. And I believe in the engineering, see, I wasn't part of that design, but in the engineering, they thought the draw would be enough from those businesses to pull down the tank, and when the system went to refill, the tank would be low enough that if you take enough garden hoses and put them together, as you get 500 feet out, you're not getting 70 pounds anymore at the end. You lose a lot along the way. Well, that's what happens. Most of our water comes from this side of town, or, well, yeah, this side of town, like the Matfield Street area. And it pushes past the North Elm Street tanks first. So it fills those tanks first. But it has to go much further to get to the Walnut Street tank because it's almost out on the Brockton line.
So the businesses that you mentioned that aren't drawing as much water, but they're still in...
They left. They went to one's in Norton. The other two are actually right over the line in Brockton.
Okay, that answers that. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote, and this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Article 34, Wayne Parks, and please just read the article.
Move that the town vote to borrow a sum of $240,000 to be expended by the Water Commissioners for the Sear Street Norman Ave pilot study.
Second.
Hearing a second, Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Certainly. The pilot study is the precursor to building a treatment plant. During the pilot study, they will look at treating for iron and manganese and PFAS at our stations 1, 2, and 4. I want to say that currently at these wells, PFAS is not an issue. The idea is to feed all 5 wells into one treatment plant. They will try various methods of treatment, green sand plus and biological, to decide on the best outcome. The best outcome is the cost to run it, maintain it, as well as treating the water. Of course, water quality being the #1 issue, but when I was typing, I put it last.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, sorry. Yeah, this was a 2/3 vote. Ayes have it unanimously. Article 35 is also a 2/3 vote. Mr. Parks?
All right. Move that the town vote to borrow a sum of $193,200 to be expended by the Water Commissioners for the Manley Street pilot study and test proposal.
Thank you. Is there, I hear a second? Okay. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Like to speak to the motion?
This is a precursor to modifications of the Manley Street plant. This is the required long-term fix to the Manley Street plant. The short-term fix does not have the required redundancy built into it that Mass DEP requires. We are being allowed to move on with forward with the short-term since we have an approved long-term solution. It would also change our filter beds from green sand to green sand plus, thus eliminating one of our chemical additions. The plant has been in operation for 17 years, and most likely it is time for immediate change. As part of the change, the plant will also be fitted to treat for PFAS with redundancy. The redundancy is that when the filter treating the water for PFAS has expired, we could switch over to a waiting filter bed and then change out the spent bed. Depending upon the media used, it could have to be removed as hazardous waste. I can't tell you what it will cost or how frequently it will have to be changed at this time. That is why the pilot study is being funded.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Judy Connors, 92 Meolas, and I know, Neil, you've touched on this. Can you just tell us if it's safe to drink the water? I know so many people in town that aren't drinking the water. They're buying ice. They're using spring water ice cubes. And, you know, can we drink the water? Do you drink the water?
So I live in town. I actually sleep in 2 different places from time to time as life has dealt me a blow along the way. I have never stopped drinking or cooking with the water. PFAS, I know somewhere up there was a slide about geese and one nesting pair of geese. So the PFAS, it's not coming from the ground. It's not a natural chemical. It's called a forever chemical. It's actually coming from all of you. We're well water. We're all directly well water. We're not deep wells, we're shallow wells. And this is a septic system community. So every time you flush, whatever you do, it's recharging our aquifer. And we actually got credits for that in some of the things we did. There's probably more PFAS in your houses than there is in the water, but we're regulated, you're not. If you've paid attention to anything that's going on, it's in your meat packaging, it's in everything that you touch now is pretty much covered in PFAS. Is it safe to drink? I've never stopped drinking it. I do have bottled water today because I couldn't carry a cup with me without spilling it on the way. Bottled water, some of them aren't, they have PFAS in them, so you have to be really careful now if you're trying not to do with it, and it has a lot of potential harm. It does. And we're moving along the way as fast as we could. PFAS was like a freight train. It came out of nowhere. We were working on other regulations that they're moving on, and they did PFAS. So it wasn't that the commissioners weren't aware of what was going on. Mass DEP put in a regulation. The federal regulation is 70 nanograms per liter, but that's for 29 PFAS and 1 lithium. So right now, Massachusetts is 6 PFAS. In a little while, the federal government will enact, and it'll be 29 PFAS. It's really expensive. My budget, what I budgeted to cover for my lab testing, it's already to somewhere.
Is there any further discussion?
Jenny Williams, 47 Tiffany Circle. I'm really confused. Is it safe to drink or not? Because I obviously, I can't have it.
So for 6 months, we've been under the MCL at all of our stations. Manly was the one that triggered it. It was over, but for 6 months, we've tested under. We tested our raw recently just so I could see what was going on. Was it something, because we tried a few different things at the plant too, which did seem to help and dropped us instantly. But when we tested the raw, we found out that one of our wells had dropped significantly, and we're blending right now with the other well that's right there in conjunction with it. So we have been under for 6 months running, but it comes from us. It's not coming from the ground. It isn't anything that I can say or put my finger on. We jumped up 1 point in testing of the other wells, but they're still, I believe, under 5. I'd be hard-pressed to read those numbers, but yeah, 6. But we're under, but it's climbing. This PFAS is not going away. It's not banned. As they ban one chemical combination, the suppliers come up with another one.
So what do we have to do to get rid of this chemical? Can we do anything in our own homes to get rid of it?
Excuse me.
And don't say don't flush the toilet.
Wayne, through the chair. I think what would be helpful to explain, I know you explained it at our meeting, but there was a water advisory issued. Then everyone heard nothing.
All right, so Mass DEP...
Excuse me, can you let Selectwoman Reyes speak,
Thank
please?
you. Thank you. So as I was saying, then we didn't hear anything. So if you could explain to us why a non-advisory wasn't issued or was issued, how does this work? When do we know at what point we are or are not under a water advisory?
I like to interrupt her, though, because she gets really mad about it.
I do.
So Mass DEP regulates what I can tell you. The notice that I sent out, I'm allowed to put in my numbers and make a few modifications, and they change it back to whatever they want to see. It's definitely inflammatory when they send it out. I'm not allowed to send anything else out because of their regulations. it is your water system, but I run by their regulations. I'm licensed by their regulations. I hold the highest licenses there are, but I have to operate under their constraints, or I get fined, I get arrested, and I go to jail, and then I lose my pension. I want to retire in a couple of years.
Excuse me, Wayne. So would it be fair to say that once a water advisory is issued, that stays out there? The only thing that you can continue to do is report the numbers, and the numbers are currently under the state maximum allowed. And the state, one more thing, and the state will not allow you to issue a non-advisory.
That's correct. What they advise me to do is update the website, which I do. Everybody hears it at the same time. I have the site updating the same time that I blast it out to the commissioners and the selectmen persons.
That's what I will check, 'cause my husband doesn't want me
Please speak into the microphone.
kidney transplant list now, so he doesn't want me to
Excuse
drink it
me.
at all, but this will help. Note to you guys,
Excuse
I've
me.
also gotten 2 flat
Excuse me. Can you please
Activating
speak into
water.
the microphone?
Say that again?
Can you please speak into the microphone?
Come on. I just wanted to say, I have really trying to keep drinking water to be healthy, but I can't have anything that's polluted because I'm on a kidney transplant list again. And note to your people in the parking lot, I have gotten 2 flat tires after I've left you. But that's all right. I will check the website. Thank you.
Any more relevant discussion to the article?
One of the, Rick Kruger, Water Commissioner, one of the areas that it's coming from, it's in everybody's clothes. Everybody's clothes that they have on right now, when you wash them, goes into the septic system, and then it recharges our wells. So until they make it illegal to use these chemicals as a fire retardant in our furniture and our clothes and our drugs and all that, it's just gonna keep going up. These numbers are gonna go up. But the only thing that they can regulate is water. They don't seem to want to regulate the amount that they're putting in clothes. So everybody's living with it every single day. You're in contact with it more with your clothes than you are drinking it. But we actually started testing 1 year earlier than most towns around, because we had the opportunity to get free testing through the state, because they wanted to see how much of this chemical was actually in the water. So we volunteered. The only trouble with volunteering and getting the free testing is we may have to do something about it 1 year earlier than anybody else. So we failed when everybody else didn't even have to test yet. So that's why, you know, it seemed like we had bad water and nobody else did, but everybody else has got the same problem. So, and this chemical that they're worried about is based on you drinking like 2 liters, is it, or something,
So
for
it's
100 years.
It's a dot in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's a lifetime advisory. It's not instantaneous. It's over a lifetime.
You have to be exposed to it. They don't want to have to test bottled water, because you're not going to be exposed to it for your whole life, because you'll never get the same bottled water. But you could be born in West Bridgewater, and you could live here for 100 years, and it could maybe affect your health at the end of 100 years. So, I mean, it's like, the chances are slim to none, except for we are dealing with, we keep adding more to the groundwater. Everybody does, every town. So until they make it illegal to use this fire retardant, we're going to have to, it's going to cost us millions of dollars to take it out. And it would make more sense to make it illegal and not put it in there in the first place. So we was talking to our representatives about trying to make it illegal so that we could lower the amount that we had and we wouldn't even have to treat it. So that's where it's at.
Thank you. Is there any new information? Yes.
Priscilla Pratt, 268 North Elm Street, and I have lived there for 73 years. So I have been here a lifelong resident. I was having some problems with my liver function tests that the doctor has been extremely concerned about, and I've been going repeatedly. When I received the advisory, it did say that it was safe for most people, but some people it could cause some issues with. I switched to the spring water, and my liver function tests for the first time in years came back improved. It was good. And then my doctor called me to tell me she had 2 other patients who had gone through the same thing. One was from Easton, one was from Bridgewater, and they both switched to the spring water, and their liver function after a few months came back normal. So for people that may have been exposed to this for a long time, it might not hurt to switch to the spring water. But it's not the town's fault. It's the world we live in right now. But there's no harm in switching to the spring water if you are nervous about it. That's all. I'm glad I did.
Okay, we're going to move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. This is, again, that was a 2/3 vote.
Could I say one more thing?
No, we've moved on.
Well, it won't be about the article.
We've moved on, I'm sorry. Article 34. Selectman Kinahan?
36.
Sorry, 36.
Move that the town vote to raise and appropriate a sum not to exceed $125,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to create a town planner position to be appointed by and fall under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen and fund the necessary support resources.
Second. Hearing a second. Finance Committee?
Recommended unanimously.
Board of Selectmen?
Recommend unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. So this position is a new position. The total amount funded for this year would be $125,000. That isn't what the salary would be. That also includes other benefits, some cost to start up the employee, like computer equipment, things along those lines. The primary function of this position is to work hand in hand with the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board, 2 very seasoned boards led by Mr. Lucini and Mr. Hurley. Hopefully this person would be able to gain some of their historical knowledge in case there is ever turnover with those seasoned boards. The function of this person would be to some economic development or seek economic development opportunities and take a close look at our zoning bylaws. Our zoning bylaws are not regularly updated or not regularly looked at by anyone in the town. So it would be really to plan ahead, plan for the future, give us the opportunity through this person to decide what the future of West Bridgewater looks like in terms of zoning, of development.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, Neil Conley. Anthony, through the chair like that. Now, say they're going to start at 125. Is there the benefits included in that also?
Yes.
Because if you're nickel and dime somebody you hire, so what's the rate going to be, like the gross wage for the year, broken down?
It would obviously be to be determined. David did a survey of what other communities are paying. The average is, I think, 95 to 105, in that range.
And then the rest will go towards benefits?
Correct.
And they'll have an office, they won't be working from home, so we won't run this person out of town. And they'll be working at town hall?
Let's keep this on.
They'll be working at town hall.
All right.
Okay. Is there, okay.
Judy Connors, 92 Mealos. Who is doing this job currently? Isn't that the selectmen's?
No, so I'd actually say it's more along the lines of the volunteers on the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals.
So we're making a new position
Correct.
to lessen other jobs.
Those are not jobs, those are volunteers. They're two volunteer boards.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Someone from town?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Not by a majority. Article 37. Selectman Reyes.
That the town vote to amend the town's general bylaws by amending Article 16, Section 1, personnel bylaws as printed on the warrant.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee.
Recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee?
Board of Selectmen.
Recommends unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. So the bylaw we're looking at amending was passed in approximately the mid-1990s. And what we are looking to do is to amend only certain parts of it. Specifically, the end effect would be that contracts would be ratified by the Board of Selectmen. This would affect actually exactly 6 employees. And this is a move to a more professional practice in hiring new employees, ensuring that potential employees are properly vetted and policies that the voters want are enforced.
Is there any discussion?
Scott Ames for Stonecroft Farm Lane. The way this reads, it certainly seems like it would be a measure that would, I'm also a library trustee in town, that this would be a measure that would take away from the library trustees to hire the best and most qualified library director and assistant director in the future. If the school committee employees are exempt, which they currently are from this, then the library trustees should also be exempt as well. It seems like it would take away the power of the library trustees to put together the best contract possible for any future employees of the library. Therefore, I don't think I could support this. Thank you.
So I wasn't planning to speak to the Board of Library Trustees or the library position, but there was an instance where the contract for the new librarian, once a promotion was given, that 40 vacation days and 9 personal days were provided from July 1 through June 30th. Then effective July 1 of 2022, the next day, she receives 25 vacation days, and that's with 2 years of service. Now, with this bylaw amendment, I am not saying that if we found a qualified person, we need to hire talent. So if we found, let's say, a person with 25 years, high level of education, we really want that person. Would we possibly give them more vacation time than we might someone coming in the door with 2 years experience? Absolutely. We want to hire the best talent we can in this town. We deserve that. But these contracts are not being reviewed, or let me go back a minute. They're being reviewed by a board. They're not necessarily being properly vetted, and the Board of Selectmen's hands are tied. We don't have an opportunity to review these contracts. If they find someone who's highly qualified for the job, then we are going to ratify that contract. But these positions, one of the things I feel very strongly about as well, is when someone is promoted in this town, there should be a background check done again. The person we hired at the beginning may not be the same person we're preparing to promote. A query check should be done. A background check should be done. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about anyone. I'm just saying we need to have a more professional process in hiring. And I believe this change in the bylaw, with the fact that we will be able to review the applicant or ratify the contract, is a step in the right direction. Will it resolve all issues? Absolutely not, but we need to move forward.
I was part of the process that hired the new library director. Part of the issue is that really prevents us from hiring the best is some of the salary constraints. If you look at what we pay the library director, she is at the bottom 10% of the salaried employees of all town employees. And that's also including the people that work for the Department of Public Works. The library director today has to have a master's degree, generally from a very expensive private university. And yet, in this town, unfortunately, we're just way below what the standard salary should be for a library director. Now, the incoming library director was promoted from the position of assistant library director to the library director. They already had 4 weeks vacation time as an assistant library director. We could not take away vacation time and promote them at the same time. What I would ask maybe the town to do is actually look at the salary positions for this and bring them up to the current standard, because if we don't, what happens is these people will end up leaving, and then when we bring in new people, we're going to have to pay them what the average current rate is. So ultimately, we're going to lose a lot of experience if we have to go through that process. Thank you very much.
So for clarification, we weren't looking at taking away someone's vacation time. What we were looking at is the fact that, let's say you have 3 weeks vacation, and tomorrow you're promoted to a new position, and that position has 3 weeks vacation. You suddenly don't have 6 weeks vacation. Okay, that's one issue. The second issue is it's up to the Board of Trustees to prepare their budget and present a salary for that person. If they feel the salary is not appropriate, then they need to look at that salary line and present it to both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. They can do a study and compare it to like towns, and if they're convincing, then I suppose we would likely agree with them. But that would be up to that board to make that presentation.
Does the school committee, get to hire and fire without all this jurisdiction too?
The school committee is separate. They are not.
So isn't the library under the structure of the town? The trustees run the library. The town doesn't really run the library. So does that mean you're going to make those decisions? Who's going to make that decision, who the library hires? And now, are you going to put your hands into the school committee's hiring and stuff like that too?
Can I clarify, please?
Yeah.
School committee is separate by statute. They have the absolute authority to hire, and the town can't change that. This bylaw can't change that. That's why the school committee is still exempted. What the purpose of this, with all due respect to both discussions here, it's not about one person, it's not about the library trustees, it's not about the librarian or salaries. It's about just uniform contract benefits and trying to make those uniform. The only way you can do that is have one board be the ultimate review board. That way they know it's uniform. We don't get to see, or even my office doesn't get to see contracts for the library board. I mean, unless some question comes up. But we review the other contracts, try to make them uniform, and that's all this bylaw does, is make that uniformity. Now, we can't include the school committee by statute.
So I always thought the school committee and the library had their own. The school committee does their thing, the library trustees do their thing, and all the other employees in the town pretty much work for the town, correct?
Well, they're all town employees.
They're all town employees.
They're all town
right.
employees. But the school committee has statutory authority that we cannot change.
So the people at the library work for the trustees technically, right?
Correct, but that's
And
not
the
a statute.
school- The teachers and everybody in the school work for the school committee,
They work for the town.
for the town.
but there's statutory exemption to the school committee to hire and fire in the school department. Library trustees do not have that statutory protection. All we're trying to do is uniform the contracts, that's all, and the benefits. As the selectwoman just said, I mean, who we hire and who you people recommend to hire and how much you want to pay them is really up to the trustees. And if you can make your case to the selectmen or anybody else that gets involved.
Okay, all right.
Christine Roberts, 3 Southgate Avenue, also a library trustee. Massachusetts state law 70 states that we do have that.
It doesn't state that you're not independent like the school committee is. No, you're not.
Okay.
What you're saying, your recommendations would still be approved as long as they're uniform benefits. We're not hiring and firing anybody for the board of for the library. All we're saying is whoever you hire, the benefits should be uniform unless there's some outstanding reason why they're not. And right now, that's not possible. They don't have any look. They don't get to look at those contracts.
Any further discussion?
Paula Bunker, 123 North Elm Street. Also, I'm actually in favor of this. I was on the bylaw study committee. I'm also on the Board of Assessors, which I know everyone has seen different things about it, but we've had a number of conflicts, for lack of a better word, with the contract we previously had regarding comp time, time off, working at home, and our contract that we were using really was way against what everybody else's was. This allows everything to become more uniform. It's not the selectmen telling us what we can and can't do. If we have a great candidate, we're going to push to get them everything that they need so we get that person here. And I'm confident from speaking with Anthony and David about this before, that it's going to continue that way. So this is something we really do need to keep things more uniform and prevent past problems from biting us in the ass in the future.
I'm going to move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Ayes have it, majority. Article 38. Hugh Hurley.
Move that the town vote to accept in accordance with Chapter 82, Section 22 through 24 of the Massachusetts General Laws, Luke Road, Sunset Avenue Extension as town ways as shown on plans approved by the Planning Board, filed with the town clerk, and recorded in the Registry of Deeds.
Second.
Hearing a second. Finance Committee.
Other roads that weren't mentioned, is this all of them?
I will
We're going
address
to
that.
talk about that in the
So recommended unanimously by the Finance Committee?
Board of Selectmen.
Recommends unanimously.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Planning Board...
Can you talk in the microphone, please?
Excuse me. Can I do... Thank you. The Planning Board held a public hearing where we accepted the roads as they were built in March, which is a prelude to town meeting. We also did Farm Road and Morley Lane, which is another subdivision that has been constructed. It was constructed correctly. Everything was fine. The only thing is, it's a homeowners association there, and it's a snafu in getting from the developer to the homeowners association. The paperwork hasn't been done there. Although the roads were built right, everything was fine. In the process of getting ready to come to it, we've realized that this hadn't been finalized. So that's why those two streets were omitted. Everything was fine with them, but the paperwork isn't there. Whereas these other two roads, everything is all set. We've run it by town council, has approved the paperwork and investigated. So those are all set. It's just that This other one had some problems. That's the only difference.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion?
Sorry, Mr. Harry, I'm lost. So what streets are we voting when you said move to accept? That's what I want to know. Because what I think is Farm Road and Molly are not in. We're going to vote on them later, or another?
They are not part of the article. Molly Lane and Sunset
Until
Ave.
they get their, is this still on?
Yes.
Yeah. Until they get the paperwork done and it is approved by town council, who approves everything when it comes to accepting, will be done. No, what it is Sunset Avenue Extension, which is just down the street from you, and the other one is Luke Drive, which is on, off of Brooks Place.
So what happened to Pearl Road? Did we approved it or not?
Pearl Road is history. We approved it a couple of years ago.
So why does it say private way on the top of Pearl Road? Okay. Sorry.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. That is the last article. The time is now 8:49, and the meeting for the town is adjourned.